Welcome to Arcade Audio.
Oh, hey, you lovable nerds. This is Shared History.
History. Just do it.
Oh my god, is that a reference to Nike?
Just history. Hello, I'm one of your hosts, Cass Maher.
And I'm Natalie Younger. And across from me, looking beautiful as always, on the ones and twos, is DJ Rip Camelucci.
DJ.
Bringing it to the sports streets.
That's
Or
right.
to the pitch, I guess you would say, or the field.
I don't play sports.
That's right, our theme for the episode today is sports.
Which, Cass, why were you inspired to do a sports episode?
Well, kids, spoiler alert, we pre-record these episodes. So currently, right now, as I am sitting in the present, the Women's World Cup in France is going on. We have just started the knockout stage, and actually, I believe the Germany-Nigeria game should be wrapping up. And Germany won 3-0.
Wow, this is breaking news.
Breaking
For a
news.
month from now when you're going to listen
I
to
believe when this episode comes out, it will have been done for about 2 weeks.
Yeah, something like that.
But yeah, so it's sports. Let's just jump in.
Yeah.
Cool. So the World Cup's going on right now. Soccer, very near and dear to my heart. So I would like to talk to you about the 99ers, which is the U.S. women's national team.
I thought we were going to talk about Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah. There's a tie-in, I swear to God. Just wait. No.
I'll find it. Continue.
The 1999 FIFA Women's World Cup took place it was hosted by the United States in June, July of 1999.
How gracious of us.
Right? This was a huge national kind of phenomenon that went on, and it was an anomaly. Women's sports weren't really a thing. This was the largest women's only sporting event in the world ever. I think tennis was really big in like the 70s and the 80s and even now and everything, but they're always kind of in tandem with the men's tournaments and whatnot.
Yeah.
This was the only women's sporting event. And it was huge. This was the third Women's World Cup. The very first one was in 1999, which the United States won, but also there was only, I think, 16 teams in the tournament, maybe less.
Wait, the first one was in 1999? I thought this
1991.
Got
sorry.
it. Okay.
1991, which we won, and then 1995, which we lost in the finals, and then 1999. This one currently. This is when the immersion of Mia Hamm, the Mia Hamm phenomenon.
Yes. This was when I was playing soccer.
This was when, So that's what's interesting about this is that it literally swept the nation. The women in the Olympics the year prior, they won everything, and they were selling out.
The U.S. women's team?
The U.S. women's team, and they were breaking records. They had like 70,000 people in the stands and everything, but none of the games were televised.
And they were still getting paid dick.
Yup.
Because they still are.
For winning the 1991 Women's World Cup, each player got paid $500.
Woohoo! Ooh. You could get a lot of soup, salad, and breadsticks at Olive Garden for $500. You could get some soup, salad, and breadsticks, and you'd still have, I think, $490 to spend on some disgustingly sweet wines and teas.
I'm telling you, it's unlimited. You don't have to keep paying for more.
What am I going to do with my $500 windfall?
And my $10 per diem. They're
Yeah.
getting a $10 per diem
Right now?
Well, there's the tour
now
there.
it's 30. I think. Ooh. But so this was huge. All of the games were televised live. They were selling out stadiums, and they became celebrities. And no one knew why or how. It was literally an anomaly. They didn't really, I don't think they had a domestic league. You know, they weren't playing like professional soccer. And
Can I interrupt for a hot sec?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Please.
So is in the United States,
Yeah.
the 99 Women's World Cup?
yes.
Was it partially in the United States? Like, did the United States bid for it because of how successful the U.S. team was in the Olympics? Or was it just like
I don't
out of a hat?
I don't know how they did this because
I don't know how they choose the cities for like anything outside of the Olympics.
Well, for the World Cup, and now for the Women's World Cup and for the men's, you have to bid like 8 years in advance.
yeah, that's why I wasn't sure. But
since
it's
it-
only the third one.
Right. Yeah. Since it was so small and whatnot, I don't think they would have bid. I think they would have had to do it longer in advance.
Yeah.
The team was good. They weren't well known, so I'm sure they're like.
Well, I
we'll
also
keep-
ask because like a football is not as just generally not as popular from like a fandom and like watching perspective.
Exactly.
And certainly not even the men's league, not as financially supported
Right.
in America versus.
Yeah, so I don't know how they got the bid or whatnot, but that's what also makes it so interesting is they there's this beautiful documentary called 9 for 9. It's NINE 4 and then IX.
Okay.
ESPN has a series called 9 for 9 about it's like a play on Title IX, all these women's events and
Yeah.
people and whatnot. Check it out. It's called The 99ers. It's beautiful. I was trying to get some of my notes done during work and I just had it pulled up. It's on YouTube. And I literally got emotional. I was like, I can't do this at work.
Is this too much?
It's too much. They talked about how they're like, we could play this safe. We could play it small. We could just do a few, like college stadiums on the East Coast or whatever. And for some reason they're like, nope, we're gonna go big or go home. And it was across the nation. And they were playing it like they played the final championship game in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena.
That's so cool.
The capacity is over 90,000. They sold out.
Yes.
90,000. They were playing in the Giants Stadium in New Jersey, which is, I believe, 70 or 80,000. They sold that out. Like, no one had even heard of them, and all of a sudden, everyone can't stop talking about them. And part of this was their marketing plan. There were no major men's or any sporting events going on at this time.
Yeah.
It's like in the middle of the summer. It's not during the Olympics. It's not during the men's World
It's
Cup or
early
anything.
enough in the baseball season.
Yeah, nothing big is going on. So they picked the perfect time. And they were like, we need to tap into a market that we don't usually. Like, we're not going to go for the people who watch men's sports because they don't care about women's sports. So this is when the kind of phenomenon of the soccer mom came about. They were going for like a wholesome, family friendly, like rec soccer league. Like, we want to give you these kind of like great role models, and they're very polished and kind and sweet hometown girls. And they played into that, and they started getting sponsors that don't normally sponsor sporting events. I think if you watch I was rewatching the final a while ago. It's like all on YouTube, and where they cut in before the PKs, there's like a Kotex commercial. Like, you would never see a tampon commercial like in the middle of the Super Bowl.
Nope.
But so they're bringing in all these sponsors who are like, oh yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, they're brands that have money and they have money to spend, and they're probably not really ever asked
exactly
to sponsor.
Yeah. And so and it was
It does kind of bother me though that they're like, oh, it's a women's sporting event, and get the tampons
right
to sponsor it.
I know.
Sponsored by your period.
women. It's a beautiful documentary though, this 9 for 9, and they have a lot of like, this is literally like the modern day version of A League of Their Own. I swear to God, it's so hard to watch this and not see that, because it's like this women's league of the man's sport, and we're just gonna,
how cute.
Yeah.
And then they like kick ass.
In the documentary, it starts off and they get I think 9 of the original 20 person roster. So like they got Mia Hamm, they got Michelle Agerzak, Christine Lilly, Brandy Chastain, all these people that none of your names faces are recognizing. But they got all of them together in one of the stadiums they played at. It wasn't at the Rose Bowl, but they're just sitting in this empty stadium in the center of the field, and they're like talking and catching up. And then they cut to Mia Hamm, and she's just kind of like looking off into the distance at the stadium in silence, and then they start playing this music over it, and then they cut into like home videos and like old footage from the actual show, and like radio announcers going over it. I was like, this is literally the opening scene of League of Their Own.
Yeah.
And there was this quote, I think it was Tom Brokaw that said it, the best known group of unknown women to captivate America. Like, knowing who these women are, and then they were all obsessed with them. And Mia Hamm became the face of it.
Yeah.
She was like the girl next door. She was very humble. She hated the attention, and for some reason they locked onto her. And it was kind of heartbreaking. They're like, what do you miss about it? And what was the hardest part of that? And she was like, honestly, the hardest part about being the celebrity spotlight was when all the girls got on the bus and I had to stay for the press stuff, because all they talk about the whole time is how it was so much of like, yes, we love the sport of soccer, but we had this family here. Like, Joy Fawcett had kids, and she had the kids on the bus going around with them, and they were like joint raising these children. And if you've ever been part of a team sport,
the bus times are the best times.
Those memories where you're waiting around for practice to start, or you're at a tournament and you got downtime, the best memories are not when you're on the field, it's when you're getting ready to go on.
Yeah.
And she's like, and I missed that. And she started getting teary-eyed and whatnot. And she's like, and all I ever wanted to do during those interviews was not make it about myself and highlight how amazing these women were. And that goes back to kind of like, this was not just like a great inspirational moment, and they didn't just get to focus on the soccer. They said the pressure of the tournament being a success was on us, and we had to keep going. If they didn't win this tournament, women's soccer would not be what it is today.
Mm-hmm. In U.S. or
anywhere?
Okay.
That's what's so crazy about, and that's why the Women's World Cup now going on in 2019 is so. I'm obsessively posting about it on Facebook, and I know people are getting annoyed with it, and I talk about it all the time. And
whatever. If we have to deal with people like obsessively posting about their fantasy football league, or like just like fly the W and all that jazz, like,
but not a lot of people are into soccer, women's soccer no less. But what gets me so like obsessively passionate about it is it's not just about a game, which is unfortunate because these are amazing athletes and professional athletes, but every time they step onto the field, it's not just about winning a game, it's not about bragging rights for your country, and it's not about like making a good PR moment. They need to win games to keep this sport going. Mm-hmm. The U.S. women's team is fighting a lawsuit. They were getting shit from the media about their blowout win against Thailand. They scored 13-0, and then they kept scoring and kept scoring. And everyone's like, that's not sportsmanlike, and like, you shouldn't be celebrating and whatnot. And for them, it's like, this is what we do. We're professionals. Like, goal differential matters when you get into tournaments and stuff. Like, we need those goals because otherwise we might not progress on and whatnot. And we're the best in the world. Give us the money we're due. Give us the attention and the respect we're due as athletes. Everything they do is like, we need to keep the sport alive, and we need to prove that we are marketable, so you will allow us to do this. There's always been so much more involved in women's athletics than just the sport, which is really unfortunate, but it's also why women's athletics are so inspirational and motivating, and it's never just about the sports. It's always about fighting for something.
I think there's so much more. Like, I think that the athleticism even is better. Like, there's so much more fun to watch a women's basketball game, and a like women's soccer match, and like women's tennis, and like everything, because I it's that thing where it's like they kind of have to be perfect.
Yeah.
So it's like all of the games are really intense.
Yeah.
You don't get as much of I don't follow the NBA, but one of my friends and coworkers like follows it religiously, and he always complains about how the NBA now is very much like it's become very much pomp and circumstance. Like it's more about like the press, and like there's more theatrics involved, and not enough.
Well, also,
and there's more like political bullshit involved in the gameplay.
In the gameplay itself, because they've started playing numbers and statistics. Like, I love watching women's sports because growing up as an athlete, it was pounded in us that like, in order to be taken seriously, you need to be strong and tough and prove that you can fight with the boys. Not just, it was never really about skill or flourish or embellishment. Like, we learned fundamentals. Yeah. Like defense, you will never see better defense than on women's basketball. And it is fighting, and you lose a lot of that kind of flourish and it's not about a dunk competition. Yeah, or like, you won't get that from women because we're told that you need to be strong, and if you're not strong and don't get a black eye, like you're just a little girl. And so what's cool about sports now is like the Tobin Heaths, who is one of the most amazing flourishy soccer players right now. The sports are getting big enough where we don't need to just be able to be tough and hang. Like, we can start focusing on making it beautiful and pretty and exciting to watch, as opposed to just like, I need help side defense and I need to get the ball and I need to outlet pass. Yeah. And men's NBA, they play statistics. It's like, oh, well, we're not going to go for the offensive rebound because statistically, if we get back and, it's just about taking shots, it's like, that's why they don't play defense. I hate it. Anyways, back to the 99ers.
This isn't about them.
This isn't about them. One of their press people said to Mia Hamm, every time they stepped on the field, they were selling the game. They wanted to win, and they wanted to win attractively. Everything she did was to make them better and make the sport better. And that goes back to like League of Their Own, where they're like, why don't we give you like short skirts and whatnot? Yeah. And they weren't doing it like, we're going to like hoochie mama you up, but it was like, make it interesting. Mm-hmm. And
thank you for putting that in the parlance of 1999 as well.
Right? Yes. So they got out of the group. So the way the World Cup works is everyone's in group stages. So there's groups of 4, and you play everyone on the team on those groups. Whoever wins the most moves on to the knockout round, and then it's just kind of like a bracket system. They got into the knockout round, and they won every single game. They only tied once, so they never lost a game in the whole tournament. They went up against China in the championship game, and the U.S. was not favored to win. China had beat them twice already. I think they had won the World Cup the year before, maybe Norway did. China was like a really technical, aggressive team, and the United States was like, they have a chance to win, but they're not favored to. And so they get into the game, and it was a 0-0 draw, which a lot of the times they're like, oh, a 0-0 draw is boring. But this was like so intense, and Michelle Akers, who was the captain of the team, suffered from extreme dehydration and fatigue through the last like 10 years of her career. So during games, she was literally on an IV on the sideline, and they would put wet towels on her to keep her, like, she was literally like barely staying alive on the field.
Holy crap.
And there were just it was amazing, like intense, and it was like everyone was with bated breath. So it ended with 120 minutes. They played regulation, which was 90 minutes, and then they went into half hour of overtime. Also, this was in Pasadena, California. It was 100 degrees. Their cleats were literally melting on the pitch. And Michelle Akers, who...
Sorry, I'm making the most...
she looked... Natalie looks frightened.
Disgusted and frightened face.
Yeah. And Michelle Akers, who's literally like suffering with an IV, when she's not on the pitch. 100-degree heat. They're going into a penalty shootout. So each team gets 5 kicks, and whoever makes the most wins. I was a goalkeeper. as a goalie, most goalies hate PKs because they're like, it's not in your favor. You got no chance. You got to get lucky. I liked it because it was very much like you got to guess the right way, but you also have to read what the person is giving you, but also kind of like it's mind games. Yeah. What I would always do is like you stand in the middle. You have to stand on the line. You can't step off the line until they kick. So I would literally inch like 2 inches to the left. And barely noticeable, but in their line of sight, if they're looking at the goal, it just naturally looks a little bigger on one side. Yeah. So sometimes you're like, oh, they're going to go to that side. I'm going to push them to that side. As a goalie, if you make it to PKs, stop one. That's always your goal. Just get 1 out of 5. And hopefully someone will shank one and whatnot. Brianna Scurry, who is one of the most amazing goalkeepers of all time, she was like, I never look at them while they're about to shoot. I turn my back, and when I'm walking up to the goal, I don't look at the person. But for some reason, the number 3 kick taker, I just look up at her. And if you've ever seen Brianna Scurry while she's playing soccer, girl is intense. Yeah. Like there's this, like after she blocks a goal, she was like, oh, like screaming. And
I'm 100% more intimidated watching any women's sport, like, and that was like through like high school, like teams, because there is such a badassery about them, because it is hammered into us that we have to be strong and we can't show like pain or fear or anything, so we like just black out and like. Yeah, girls lacrosse in high school doesn't wear pads.
No, I was in a practice once, and it was during JV when I asked to go down to JV because I didn't want to be on the varsity team anymore. And one of our
humble brag.
One of our coaches was a Drake women's soccer player. She was a defender. Her thigh was like the size of a tree trunk. She was so strong. And we were playing this game called Power Finesse, where someone takes a shot on you from outside the 18, and then they pass a ball, and then they take a shot on you very close. So she takes a shot from far out, and then she gets the pass ball to take a closer shot, and she rockets it straight into my face. And I black out, like straight up unconscious. And when I wake up, everyone's hovered over me, and I go, did the ball go in? Like, it's ridiculous. So Brianna Scurry decides... Very intense.
Looks at the third.
She looks at this player and gives her this death stare. Like, you can see it. And she's just got this scowl on her face. And she's like, for some reason, I decided to look up, and I saw like her body language and her face, and she just did not look super confident. And something in me was like, no matter which way she goes, I'm going to block this. Like, I just know I'm going to block this shot. And she blocks the shot. She was a mile off her line, first of all. You're only allowed to take 1 step off the line as a person's taking it. Now it has changed where you have to have 1 foot on the line still, which is just stupid. But before they changed that rule, you could kind of fudge it a little bit, take a few steps off. Anyway, she blocks the shot. Everyone's freaking out. Mia Hamm, who was like the darling, she's like the Alex Morgan of the 99ers. She didn't want to take PKs. She hated taking PKs. And on the side, before they go into shootout, where they make the lineup of like, you're going to go first, you're going to go second, she was like not really into it. And the PK coach was like, you're the highest goal scorer on this team, you should be taking these shots. And as soon as she said that, she was like, oh, cool, I got it. Mia Hamm drains it. Everyone freaks out. Brandi Chastain is the last person to take a PK, and this is that famous shot. She was right-footed, and she's a defender. And Tony DeCicco, R.I.P., amazing man, their coach was like, Brandi, I want you to take the last PK. She's like, okay. He goes, you need to take it with your left. And she was like, okay. Now, even like goal scorers and like strikers and offensive players, they don't like taking it with their non-dominant foot. Yeah. A defender, no offense defenders, but you're not doing as technical stuff and you're not taking as many shots. To take a PK, like a spot kick,
I
with
play
your
defense,
left,
so I'll allow.
You'll allow. I was a goalie.
I was a keeper. I was a keeper. And then
I got it. She takes it with her left. She drains it. She just rockets it past and immediately rips her shirt off, twirls it around, and then there's this amazing picture of her on her knees just like, ah. And there's this great picture that was taken of it just in this moment. And then for weeks and months afterwards, it was just hammered in the press of like, that's inappropriate, or they were like making jokes about it, and like taking this amazing achievement and diminishing it to like,
She seems aggressive.
well, but people were like, did you plan it? Was it a publicity stunt? She's like, no, I just like,
I was just so excited.
I was just like really excited.
Sorry for having emotions. I don't plan my emotions.
It was a huge tentpole moment in women's sports in general, but especially in soccer. During this, they wanted to pay certain players more. Like they wanted to pay Mia Hamm more because she was kind of like the media darling, and Mia Hamm was fighting for them to all get paid the same amount. So that was kind of their pay fight at the time. Cut to now, the women have scored more goals in this current World Cup than the men have in the past 6 or 7 years. And they're fighting for equal pay. Yeah. They bring in more money for U.S. soccer, not the domestic leagues, but for the national team. They bring in more money and more viewership, and they get paid, I believe, each player gets paid $38,000 less. Luna Bar donated $700,000, like the granola bar, so that they could be paid equally. And they're going through this fight now, and all of them say, like, without the 99ers, not only would we not be playing the soccer we're able to play today, but we would not be fighting for the things we are today. Like, we would not even think about that. Every single female soccer player is also an activist. Like, straight up, they just are. Man, I really wanted to tell this more as in like a beautiful story and like they're pioneers and whatnot. But I just got real excited and got sidetracked.
Well, this is really funny to me because so you chose the theme of sports for today's episode, and it's funny to me because you're like getting hung up on your notes, but also like not looking at your notes.
Yeah.
And as I go into mine, because I don't really follow sports much at all.
Yeah.
I've been like loosely following the World Cup. Soccer is a sport that I actually enjoy watching on TV, and kind of the only one that I enjoy watching on TV. I'm gonna be like nose down in my notes the whole time, and I'm not gonna be like throwing around fancy verbiage.
These long pauses I'm taking, I'm like, oh, I saw the specific stat and know whatever, but the rest of it is just me like, yeah, I got this.
Be like, I remember this.
I know this. It's interesting because I was 11 at the time that I was 9 at the time when the 99 Cup went on. And I know so many people my age, especially soccer players, being like, I remember that game and I remember those PKs and whatnot. My family were not sports people. Like, I played sports because my mom was like, we're going to throw you in as many activities as you can because you hyper. But we
got to bring you down.
She still run around that field. She still does not understand sports. We never had like a team growing up because Iowa doesn't have any professional sports. So like, I remember this because of the media attention, and I remember everyone had a Mia Hamm poster. But like, I knew nothing about this until like 2011 when the Women's World Cup was kind of like starting to get bigger, and 2015, the biggest event of all time.
I'm the only one in my family who played soccer.
Yeah.
So like ever. So we were a sporty family, but we also were kind of like a throw the children into any sport that they have an inkling of interest in. See what, if anything, sticks.
Yeah.
I stopped competing in sports after middle school because the drama club and speech team at my high school were very time consuming.
Yeah.
Like we had like 8 or 9 productions a year in our drama club.
Jesus.
So like there was no time.
Yeah.
But and also at that time I was still doing like musical theater, so I was like, I'm dancing, I'm still being active. Like I was always an active person. But I've never been a big fan of sitting. I never like want to sit down and watch a game. Yeah. Unless I'm at the game.
Yeah. Most sports I'm not a huge fan. Well, I like watching college sports because it hasn't come to the realm of like the NBA and the NFL where it is just like showmanship, and it's just like, oh, look at, I'm getting all these sponsorships and whatnot. There's no heart and there's no like team aspect. I'm gonna be traded the next day if I need to. But most of the people I know who play soccer now, and like all the people in the World Cup, are like, this changed my life, and it was because I saw them that I made the choice to do that. And it was like, I never really put that together.
Yeah.
And also it was kind of nice that it was just kind of normalized. Like, oh yeah, everyone gets excited about soccer.
I think like a lot of the knowing kind of the general age range of pro women's soccer teams, the U.S. women's U.S. team right now, like they would have all been like 6 to 10 years old.
Yeah.
When this,
Probably, yeah, 8 to 11.
yeah.
Because I'm the same age as a lot of the players.
The same.
I'm on the older end too.
That's why I was.
Yeah,
that's why I was
yeah.
like, maybe like
Yeah,
six,
maybe like
6
six,
to 10. Because I think the younger end is like 22.
Yeah. Well, now, now they've all aged out. So like the youngest players on the team are 19 and 20. So they wouldn't remember any of this.
Yeah.
But they had the people like Abby Wambach and Carly Lloyd, who they looked up to at the time, who played with some of these people.
I'm so glad. I knew because I knew that you wanted to do sports because of the Women's World Cup. So I knew you were going to do soccer. So as to prevent any overlap, I was like, I will not do soccer, despite the fact that it is the only sport that I can like discuss with any semblance of authority.
Right.
Real quick, just to provide some context as far as the size and scale of the stadiums that they were playing at.
Yeah.
With the exception of two stadiums, which were around 26 and 27,000, they played at FedEx Field, which is 80,116 capacity, Giant Stadium, which is a capacity of 77,716. That's the old stadium, not MetLife. Foxborough Stadium, where the Patriots used to play, 58,868. Soldier Field, 65,080 capacity. Stanford Stadium, which has a capacity of 85,429. And the Rose Bowl, 95,542.
Are these the capacities in 99? Because like, for example, I know Soldier Field is bigger now.
Yeah,
Okay.
those were all at the time.
Cool. That's bonkers.
Yeah. And Julie Foudy, one of the I think she was a co-captain, she said that years later someone interviewed her and said, was this an anomaly? Like, what is it? Were you pioneers or was 99 an anomaly? Like, because they shouldn't have had that. There was 40 million viewerships just in the U.S. alone on TV. And she said that question haunted her because they never expected this. And honestly, if it hadn't just like lucked out, that wouldn't have happened.
If it hadn't, honestly, I feel like even if the U.S. team did that well, I don't think if it wasn't in America.
Honestly, the fact it was in America was
the fact that it was
too.
in America and the U.S. team were like badasses.
And I know I'm going long on this, but I'm just so passionate about it. The women currently, I said, are in a lawsuit now, and it's one of those of like the women doing well in this tournament is not just going to affect U.S. soccer or soccer. They will set a legal precedent in the United States about equal pay that they can then build on for future lawsuits and whatnot.
Yeah.
And the United States is such a power in sports and entertainment and whatnot. People always are like, oh, these actresses get paid millions of dollars and they're fighting to get paid more. People pay attention to celebrities. We have a celebrity culture. If they're fighting for this, it's going to affect everyone else. So these women setting this legal precedent in the United States is going to affect the pay gap and equality among genders in being paid. But it's also then going to trigger this ripple effect in all of these other countries. This is one of the most competitive fields ever in women's soccer. Argentina, their national team did not have a game for 2 years. FIFA was not able to schedule them a game for 2 years. And now that it's on such a big platform, a lot of these countries are like, shit, that makes us look bad. Or like, we just got trounced 13-0. That's embarrassing. We need to make ourselves look good. And so the United States doing well is not just going to be bragging rights for us. It's not just going to be like, they may get paid more now. It's going to affect women's soccer around the world, which is then going to affect women's equal pay around the world. It's such a big, there's so much on their shoulders right now, which is why I get so obsessive and passionate about it, because it's not just about soccer.
No.
And it can't.
Well, and it also will prevent, this is going to be a real slick segue, guys. Women's sports in general get underpaid.
Yeah.
Grossly underpaid. So it also would solve the problem of a lot of female athletes don't get an off season, because what they do is, because they're not getting paid as well, they play on their off season in other countries, in other leagues. And so there are WNBA players who have not had an off seasons, like who are like, let's say they've been in the WNBA for 4 years or whatever. They've not had an off season since they were in college, since before they were too young to play in the WNBA, because they will go on the off season and go play in Europe or in China or in Australia, in those leagues, because they, one, need the money, and two, like there are WNBA players that like have been paid more than they would have been paid to play the WNBA season. They have been paid by like a European team to sit out the WNBA season. Yeah. Just to sit it out, not play for a couple months, so that they can be better players for their team. Yeah. And they're getting paid to sit it out more than they would have been getting paid to play.
A lot of these athletes too, if you follow them on social media, everything, they have had to become like hashtag ad, hashtag sponsored. Like it's kind of embarrassing to see them like, oh, hey, look at my new favorite product and whatnot. They're not trying to be influencers. They literally have to do that in order to get like paid.
Well, and so and also women are more susceptible to ACL tears.
Fuck yeah, it's because of our hip. We have wider hips, and then the ligaments, I think our gait is different from men because of that. I've had many meniscal and ACL issues.
This is a great just a nod to your injury record.
Things I talk about a lot: Iowa and my knees.
So like when they're not getting any off-season breaks, like they're more likely to injure themselves and more likely to have to retire early. Yeah. So like the career of a female pro athlete is like can be greatly cut short by the fact that they have to play in these other leagues, whether they want to or not. Like they kind of have to in order to.
And a lot of times when players get these like career-ending injuries, they kind of play anyway. They come back from them and they're like, most people
they push through them.
Most people who've been like, I wouldn't be 100% when I came back. They're like, I get to play though.
Yeah. So that's my segue into my story, which is about the WNBA, but actually kind of not. So I want to talk about Cheryl Miller. Basketball fans know who Cheryl Miller is. But even like not huge basketball fans would know her younger brother, NBA All-Star Reggie Miller.
Oh, okay.
He played for as shooting guard on the Pacers. He played on the Indiana Pacers his whole career, and he's like Hall of Fame, very, very, very good, very good. But he used to always say. And I don't know, I'm saying used to, he's still alive. But he would always say when people would ask like about like fierce contenders or whatnot, or if the question was about his sister, he's a very athletic family. There's another brother who played pro baseball, I think. He used to say that Cheryl used to kick his ass. So Cheryl Miller was born in California, Riverside, California. She's an American basketball player and coach, and credited as one of the greatest players in the history of women's basketball. So like that achievement is like kind of couched in her gender. Like Reggie Miller is like, no, just like one of the best basketball players of all time. And a lot of like big basketball fans will say like, regardless of gender, like one of the greatest basketball players of all time. She is currently the women's basketball coach at Cal State in LA. And my friend said that she was like something like the first or the only woman to have scored, maybe it was an American woman who have scored like 100 points in a single game. But looking at like the list of people who have scored over 100 points in one game, like she's not the only woman on the list.
Wait, she individually scored 100 points?
She individually scored over 100 points. And what's crazy is that that was in a high school game. I think it was her senior year of high school.
Fuck.
She scored like something like 105 points in one game. So she checked off that achievement really early.
Easy.
Yeah, she's like
Casual.
whatever. Yeah, so so Reggie used to always say that like she kicked his ass. She was a danger pretty much anywhere on the court. She could shoot. She had a great shot accuracy from kind of anywhere.
Was she a forward?
Oh God, I should know that. I think so. Yeah. Yes, I believe so.
Hey DJ Rip,
DJ Rip,
you want to hit us
fact-
with a beat?
Yeah, want to hit us with them sweet beats. That's the bare minimum of something that I should have known. I was more just like
It
tickled
doesn't
by
really
just
matter,
like.
but it is one of those like if you can play any position on the court, like that is.
I think she played most as a forward.
Yeah.
But she's like also an amazing and very intimidating defender. Girl 6'2", and like an amazing rebounder, which is another reason why I'm like she had to have been like a forward or like
Yeah, I had a middle school basketball coach, Gary Turner. He used to yell at me, "Maher, you're killing me." I remember him being like, just like shitting on like forwards and post players, like as a joke kind of. But he's like, "You just need to get the ball off the basket. Don't dribble it." So
you're not allowed to dribble.
Not allowed to dribble. He's like, "You're supposed to be tall and powerful and just get those quick shots in there."
Yeah, she
so
played, like-
anytime a forward is like a really good ball handler or shooter, I'm like, yes.
She played like center forward.
Okay,
Checks
I
out.
was gonna say if she was like also like
front
an
court.
amazing rebounder.
Well, and center forward too, you don't think of them as like dribblers a lot,
Yeah.
or outside shooters. So that's impressive.
So yes, but like she was like, "Give me the ball. I can drain it from wherever I am." Is what I sound like. But so she played all through her youth. Like in high school when she was, breaking that record of scoring over 100 points in one game. She set California state records for points in a single season, in a single game, in her high school career. I think she still holds the record for points scored in a single season. She scored 1,156 points in one season, and in her entire high school career, she scored 3,405 points. And I think she still holds a California state record. Yeah. Yeah. So, and she was like named High School Player of the Year by Street and Smith in both 81 and 82. And then when she went into college, she went to USC and she majored in chemistry. So she's like, I'm just going to be taking some like biochem classes and like
Casual.
just casual.
Oh, hey, you headed to OChem? Swish.
Yeah. Just doing the chemistry while also being the first player, male or female, to be named All-American by Parade magazines 4 times. Every year of her college career, she was named All-American by Parade magazine.
Holy shit.
And like no male player had even gotten that achievement. Her freshman year, she leads her team to the championship. Her freshman year to the NC, to the championship, and then she was the NCAA tournament MVP. Both, I think they only won the championship 2 years. I believe it was her freshman and her sophomore year.
Yeah.
Both times she was named the whole tournament MVP. She was the NCAA Player of the Year 3 years in college. Sports Illustrated named her the best player in college basketball, male or female. She won the Naismith College Player of the Year 3 times. She was the Broderick Award winner for like the female college player of the year. She just was like cleaning up.
Yeah.
While also doing the chemistry.
Casual.
She was the first USC player, male or female, to have her jersey number retired when she by the university.
Yo, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Having a jersey number retired.
I feel like it's a big deal in college sports in general.
Yeah.
It's also a big college too.
Yeah. So she was the first one. They were like, you know what, Cheryl, ain't nobody get to wear this number. This number is going up in the rafters. So while she's in school, yeah, that makes sense date-wise. While she's still in college, she plays in, and like shortly after college, she plays in like the World Championships, the Pan American Games and the Summer Olympics, which were also in the U.S. that year. This is 1984
Georgia.
Summer Olympics. No, they were 1984 Summer Olympics were in Los Angeles.
I think the women played a game in Georgia.
And game.
The soccer team, sorry.
Yeah.
Shut up, Cass.
Shut up, Cass. This isn't about you. So she they win the 1983 World Championships. They win the gold the gold member. They win the gold medal in the Pan American Games, also 1983. 1984, the Olympics come around. They win the gold member. God. They win that. It's a very different sport. They win the gold medal in the Summer Olympics. They were it was the U.S. women's basketball's first gold member.
She's honestly not doing this on purpose.
Is their first gold medal for the U.S. women's basketball team.
Wow.
In the Olympics.
Natalie's falling apart.
Yeah, I am disintegrating. They win a whole bunch. It was like she leads teams to a whole bunch of other wins. 1986 title and gold at the World Basketball Championship and the Goodwill Games. Both times I think it came down to like them and Russia, and they were like nah, and they won.
Russia.
And then also during all this national and international play, she's winning a lot more, like receiving a lot more honors and awards just for like literally being one of the greatest basketball players of all time. After graduating USC in 86, so all of this is while she's still in school, all of the world championships and Olympics and whatnot, or all while she's still in undergraduate and undergraduate.
Deep breath.
Sports. When she graduates, she was drafted by the U.S. Basketball League, which is a men's league. That's bonkers. I couldn't find that much about like her playing for them though.
Yeah.
So I like wonder if I think it's because she that was like 86, and I know that she retired from playing in the late 80s because of I think a couple of knee injuries. Oh my god, it's like hashtag your twin.
Free the knee.
So I don't think she got to play long in that league. And at that point, she returned to her alma mater and to be the assistant coach and then ultimately be the head coach at USC. And during that, she also started like her broadcast career, which like gives her another milestone because she was a commentator, analyst, and reporter for NBA coverage on multiple different networks throughout her career. And one of the kind of like big milestones was that she was actually the first female analyst to broadcast nationally televised men's professional basketball.
Wow.
So they had never had a female analyst, which
That's
makes me
awesome.
think of like, I don't know if Erin Andrews, who was a sideline reporter for football, I don't know if she was like the first. I just remember like
She was the first like
did she
big
do
deal.
She was the first like kind of crossover star. Yeah, she started in college.
Yeah.
UF alum. Go Gators.
Well, because I know she was at a game that I was at U of I, and I remember people being like, "This is a big deal."
Yeah, that's when she first started to like break out on the mainstream, and then she signed with Fox and started doing NFL games. Never commentary though.
Okay, always just like sideline reporting.
Yeah.
Okay. I just thought of that like while I was.
Yeah.
Because you still don't see a lot of it.
No.
Only in basketball. Like
Yeah.
football doesn't have any women commentators. Baseball,
There was
maybe one.
Who
or
was
two.
Was it Cam Newton who during a post game press conference, a female like reporter was asking about like him switching up his routes and whatnot, and it's funny hearing a woman talk
Yeah.
about football.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. But yeah, basketball more than the other sports will have women commentators. Doris Burke is excellent.
I think it's partially because like there's at least feels like there's been more of a female presence in that sport for longer.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, there's no
Yes, thanks
no,
to like
yeah.
Cheryl
Yeah.
Miller. There are women referees. Oh God, what's her name? She's a coach she's like an assistant coach for San Antonio.
Oh, she's the first female NBA coach.
She's soon to be the first female like head coach.
Yeah, 'cause she is still assistant coach, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we know she's probably doing all the work. I'm just making things up now, guys. So today's episode is
Greg Popovich just off in the corner drinking wine.
Yeah.
Becky Hammond. Dropping a beat, DJ Rip.
Man,
Yeah.
beat to the beat.
So all of this is happening. She's like been like this amazing athlete. Everyone loves watching her play because she's so just intense and amazing to watch play. And now it is 1996. She has just been like the first female commentator on analyst to broadcast a nationally televised NBA game. And now the WNBA is formed. So this is 1996. I did not realize. I knew it was young, but I still was like shocked that like there's so many amazing female players that greatly predate the WNBA even being formed.
Because the WNBA is clearly the professional league, but
They were not the first
I was going to say
women's professional basketball league.
because, sorry, bring it back to soccer. The NWSL is the equivalent of the WNBA right now, but there was the WPL, and there were a few other leagues that only lasted like 3 or 4 years, and then they folded, and then they had to wait a year, and then they got another league. The current NWSL league, I think, is in 6 seasons, which is the longest any soccer league has gone.
So the first women's professional basketball league in the U.S., I cannot remember what it was called, but the same year that the WNBA was formed, but like they beat them by a little bit. It was the American Basketball League, so the ABL. So just like the NBA, there used to be the NBA and the ABA, and then when they merged, like teams came over and whatnot. But like neither the ABL or the WNBA were founded until 1996.
Wow.
So at this point, like Cheryl Miller's she's been injured. She hasn't been playing for like almost 10 years. She's just been living that coach and that commentator life. So I thought I would take a little pivot down the WNBA history road just for a moment, because Cheryl does swoop back in. So when the WNBA is formed,
Cheryl Swoops.
Yeah.
Cheryl Swoops was one of the first players in the WNBA. Cheryl Miller was a coach. She did coach. She stepped in to coach and be the general manager for the Phoenix Mercury, but I think only for like 2 seasons, like a handful of seasons. And then she like took some time off. She like retired, like she cited fatigue and like took some time off for a little bit. I then went back into a little bit of broadcast and another college position before taking on her current role as a women's basketball coach at Cal State. But yeah, so the WNBA is now the only women's league in America around today. And just like every other women's league in the country, has nearly gone bankrupt several times because of lack of sponsorship, lack of broadcast coverage, which also then feeds into the lack of sponsorship because like people don't want to sponsor a sport that isn't going to be televised broadly. And kind of like lack of fandom, because there's a lot of people who are super into NBA, but like I feel like people who are super into basketball like both and will watch both because they don't have competing seasons. So if you love basketball and that's like your sport to watch, you're gonna watch on both.
I will say that a lot of and it is condescending to a certain extent, but also do what you got to do. A lot of the NBA players have been going to WNBA games and like been very vocal about that. And they often say like, oh, when I want to learn, I learn fundamentals from watching the WNBA. And they go because they actually want to watch games, but also they're like, hey, look at me, I'm going to this WNBA game. You guys should too. So good on them for that. They're trying to help share, because a lot of male athletes, it's not male athletes aren't the problem. The male athletes are like recognize that the female athletes in their sports are like amazing. And the games are very different to watch. But in like 2007,
So like WNBA's been around for like 10 years. In 2007, like at this point, and in 2007, the teams were still estimated to be losing like 1.5 to $2 million a year.
Jesus.
They didn't have their first cash flow positive season until 2010, and that was one team. One team in 2010 finally had.
Who was it? Was it
Connecticut?
Oh,
yeah.
I thought because Minnesota has a big WNBA team, right?
I think so.
Lynx?
Yeah.
I have a friend who worked for them.
The Chicago Sky had like the league MVP played for the Sky. I don't know if she still does. Well, she wouldn't be the most recent MVP.
Yeah.
She still plays for the Sky, I believe. Also, fun fact about the Chicago Sky, they have Allie Quigley, who played for DePaul when I was at DePaul. And I now I feel like an ass because I don't know her partner's name. Her wife is also on the Sky.
Yeah.
So they're the first. They're the first spouses to play together on the same team
That's
at a
awesome.
professional sports league, I think, in the world. And I'm like, that's delightful.
You and I have been talking. We want to go to a Sky game, and we want to see Red Stars game, the
Yeah.
women's soccer league team in Chicago.
Yeah. So that, but the guys, go if your city has a local women's
Please go.
team,
Please support.
cheer it.
They're fun
so much fun,
Very
and they
fun.
tend to not be like they're not as expensive.
Yeah.
And it's like even if they're doing really well, their ticket it's not like
Also
the men's teams are like the team sucks and the tickets are
Also,
still
the
insane.
people that go there love the sport
game.
and the game, and they want to
Yes.
be there, and it is a fun,
Oh, and there's-
fan atmosphere.
Every time I've been to a Sky game, there's been like also like a group from like a school. Like there's
Yeah.
like a bunch of like high school athletes or like middle school athletes or like Girl Scout troops, and it sounds like I don't know. It sounds like kind of precious, but it is so amazing.
It goes back to that. It's not about a sport. It's not about a game. It is about influencing, and I hate that there's so much pressure on top of just the game.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think also the women's league has a smaller max roster size. Like I think that their max roster size is like, or it was reduced at one point in like the early 2000s to like 11, but it's like you have 9 on a court. So if somebody is injured, you basically don't have a bench.
You're fucked. Yeah.
It's bonkers to me.
Especially with all them knee injuries.
And then just because we were talking about pay equity, here's a fun number. This is from a couple years ago, but the salary cap for an entire team was under $1 million for. Fuck. Yeah, this was a couple years ago, and I think it was approaching $1 million. Like it was like 900,000. For reference, the NBA salary cap for an entire team is $99 million. So just a little lack of balance there. But yeah, but this is about Cheryl Miller. She coached the Phoenix Mercury. She was I think she was very happy to see that the WNBA came into being. And
it's
then
also really hard for those people who are the greatest of all time, and they missed out on the professional. Look at like Mia Hamm and Brandy Chastain and all them. They didn't get the professional league that we have now, and even that is not great.
Yeah.
But they had the 99 years, and then now it's becoming big and not only more visible, but like they are getting the sports science behind it. Like if you see some of the things they do to like train and whatnot, like they were just out on the pitch running back and forth. Like they have made this an actual profession, and some of the greatest players in the world and pioneers never got that.
Yeah.
But they're still happy to see the other people get it.
Yeah, she like even and similarly, I think to when the women's soccer league got like picked up more steam. Like the players were a little bit older for that reason.
Yeah,
and so I think that I don't know about Cheryl Swoops, but I know that a couple of the other players that were kind of the pioneers or like the darlings of the WNBA when they got started. Like Leslie Cooper and whatnot. I think they all only played like 3 or 4 seasons.
Yeah.
A couple of them all played on the same team, and I think that team, I think it was like the Houston Comets, and the Houston Comets won like every women's
were a freaking
championship.
dynasty.
Yeah, it was like, so, and it was like, then they kind of all aged out or
Well, and you look,
their,
I mean, the average career span of an athlete is short to begin with because you got to be at peak physical condition.
Yeah.
A lot of them around that time too were older because, you know, that it wasn't as big. There wasn't as many people. You got to last longer. It's cool to see now, like Mallory Pugh and Lindsey Horan, they foregoed college athletics and they went straight to the pros. Mallory Pugh got signed when she was 18.
Then they
They went straight to professional athletes, like you see a lot of men do for basketball and football, which is cool.
I think I don't know if this is accurate. I'm kind of pulling this half out of my ass, but I think
We are professional historians.
yeah, and I'm a professional sports fan. I'm pretty sure that the minimum age to join the WNBA might be like 21.
Yeah.
But here I go with another great segue. Cass just mentioned the Chicago Red Stars, which you should also go see play. It is a pain in the ass to get to Toyota Park, but so worth it.
Yeah.
I have a surprise for you. A player from the Chicago Red Stars, Nikki Stanton, called me and left me a voicemail with a little bit of sports, a little bit of soccer history.
No, you
to be
guys,
our
I'm
first.
gonna start crying. Oh my God. Oh, her partner Sam Kerr is in the World
Yes.
Cup right
Yep.
now. Oh my God.
Yeah, so I couldn't get Sam. Actually, I didn't try to get Sam. I texted
Right.
Nikki immediately.
Right, yeah.
But yes, I asked her if
straight
she'd
up
be
crying right
down to. I knew you'd be so excited. I love surprises. I asked her if she would want to be our first little remote guest.
Oh my God, yeah.
And drop a little knowledge on us. So she called me this morning and she left me a voicemail. So we're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna play this voicemail. For you
I'm
guys.
crying mainly because I love surprises, especially when they're thoughtful.
And I love giving thoughtful surprises.
Oh, Natalie, you're such a sweet, sweet friend.
So Nikki Stanton is also our age.
Right, yes.
So is also our age. And plays for the Chicago Red Stars. She used to play for Seattle, I want to say. And she's also been on loan to Perth Glory before.
Australia has a great women's soccer league.
All right. So hopefully this sounds good.
Volume all the way up.
Yeah.
Hey Natalie, it's me, Nikki. Just giving you a call to give you a little info on some soccer. I found an interesting fact that I was thinking about, and I don't know if you've watched much about the Jamaican national team. I found out that they're actually almost fully funded by Bob Marley's daughter, Sybil, which I think is pretty cool. They're called the Reggae Girls, and they've pretty much funded their entire way to the World Cup by having like pool parties and charging people $100 to go, and the coaches have like put in money out of pocket, and they've come and they have scored their first World Cup goal, actually a girl who used to play in the league. So yeah, I thought that was very interesting because they're very vibrant, colorful, and really fun team to watch. And who knew that Bob Marley's offsprings were helping that along. But hope that you are doing well, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, they scored their very first World Cup goal, and it was huge. And and Bob Marley's family funds all of that?
Yeah, it's the daughter that Nikki specifically mentioned is Cabela, Cabella.
Yeah.
Cabela Marley. Basically has funded their entire team, and then the team basically funded their own way.
That's amazing.
Because nobody pays women's sports.
It's not the Cameroon team. It's one of the African nations, I believe. Their entire coaching team is volunteer basis, 100%.
Yeah. I did not know that. That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Luna Bar was like, here, U.S. women's team, and pool parties, and Bob Marley's family.
That's so cool. That's amazing.
Got Jamaica there.
What a lovely little surprise. Thank you. Shout out Nikki Stanton for that. Dropping that beat on us.
That's how I'm going to fund Arcade Audio is
Yeah, pool parties.
That's
Hey,
an amazing idea.
I would go.
Yeah, it's like, listen, I don't know if I would go to your pool party, but if the Jamaican women's soccer team,
I'm there in a heartbeat.
were throwing a pool party, I'd be
Yeah.
like, I trust that you can throw a bomb ass pool party.
That's
Yeah.
better than busking like the Jamaicans men's bobsled team was doing.
Maybe they took inspiration from it.
Oh.
They're like, we can do this. Just
better.
Just women getting themselves into competitions that they
International
deserve to be in.
competitions. Yes. Well, wow. This has been a very exciting and passion-filled sports episode. Thank you, Natalie, for going outside of your comfort zone.
Sports.
check
I got
out-
to bring it back to Chicago. so
Check
it's
out
fine.
ESPN 9 for 9. They've got great episodes on the 99ers, on Pat Summitt. They have one on Cheryl Swoops, Anna Kournikova. It's a great little series.
I also have here the first women's basketball league in the United States. It was the Women's Professional Basketball League, and it lasted 3 years from 1978 to 1981 and included teams such as, in alphabetical order, the California Dreams / Nebraska Wranglers, the Chicago Hustle, the Dallas Diamonds, the Dayton Rockettes / Washington Metros, the Houston Angels, the Iowa Cornets,
Cornets. Come on.
the Milwaukee Does, Minnesota Phillies, the New England Gulls, just like
Okay, a little on the nose.
the New Jersey Gems, the New Orleans Pride, New York Stars, Philadelphia Fox, St. Louis Streak, and San Francisco Pioneers. And also, their logo is fucking vintage dope, and I want it on a shirt / hat /
Let me see
merch
it.
in general.
Oh, dude, we'll post this on the Instagram.
Yeah. It's
Let's
pretty
make
great.
t-shirts.
Yeah.
So, but I think that the WBL was only survived for like 3 or 4
3 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
3 years, and then I think the ABL only survived for like 3 years. And luckily they were around at the same time as the WNBA, since they started at the same time, so a lot of those players got to move over.
Yeah.
So follow women's sports.
Support
You
women's sports and show
assholes.
that women's sports are worthwhile and that women are, worthwhile.
And if you're a local in Chicago, go to a Chicago Red Stars games. There's 4 Chicago Red Stars on the U.S. women's team.
Yeah,
at
it's
the World
unreal.
Cup.
And if you see them play another team in the NWSL, you're going to see like 3 or 4 more.
Yeah, because a lot of them
players.
play for other. Yeah. And also follow Nikki Stanton. She's great. Her Instagram is at NikkiGuti7. So NIKKIGUTI7, and she's just the best. And that's our episode of Shared History.
We just shared a lot of history.
Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at SharedPod. Send any questions, corrections, suggestions to Shared Podcast. Nope, that's not it. To
Shared History Podcast at gmail.com. Guys are killing it.
Go collect all of your gold members and share you later.
Thank you for playing Arcade Audio. Play more at arcadeaudio.net.